You're listening to the Integrative Health Simplified podcast with Kari, Coody, pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner. Here we talk all things straightforward and honest when it comes to holistic health and simplifying your best steps forward while eliminating all the gimmicks and confusion. Leave the overwhelm at the door and get ready for impactful action steps that get to the real root of your issue and actually move the needle in your health. Let's dive into the show. Hey there, it's Kari here, and welcome back into the Integrative Health Simplified podcast. We are rounding out a series all about women's health, fact or fiction. And I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are just joining us for the first time, hello and welcome. So glad that you're here. We do series here on this podcast, and to just kind of make it easy to go back and refer you to different things, and also just put a lot of information that goes together. So that's kind of what I've done with this women's health series, and just kind of explaining why some things matter, how it all fits together. And in this specific episode, we're going to be talking about detoxing as it relates to hormones. And one other reason why this series kind of came to be was that there are a lot of things that are common but not normal that we hear as women and can oftentimes just kind of take as the gospel, and it's not necessarily even accurate. And so that's why I just wanted to do a deep dive into women's health, into whether what we hear is fact or fiction, just to make you a little bit more aware of how your body works and what you can do to help it out, right? We always want our body to work properly, but sometimes we're not really helping it out. So that is what we're going to kind of be continuing in this last episode, specifically talking about detox and hormones. Because I think sometimes we don't necessarily put these two things together. When we think about a detox, we might think about, my gut health's off, or I want to lose a little bit of weight, so I'm going to do a detox. I know it can have a lot of different meanings when we think about the word detox, but I want to talk to you specifically about what it has to do with our hormones, because it has a really, really key role to play when we think about us as women and our hormones. And so whenever you make a hormone, whenever our body makes a hormone, we have to, obviously our body makes it, uses it, and then it has a whole system involved to get it out of our body. Because again, once we've made it, used it, it needs to get rid of it, or else that's when we see some of these estrogen dominant type symptoms, or just hormones being off in general, is because our body is not always able to detox it out like it wants to. And so that kind of, to me, is one of the really big pieces that we often miss when we think about why our hormones are out of balance. And so I want to kind of go through what really happens and how it all happens, and what you can do to sort of support this detox that is very, very linked to hormonal balance. And so with all this, our liver is super, super key, because that's really the way that our body detoxes out our hormones. And so supporting it is going to do a lot more than just balance your hormones. However, it is one of the keys to balancing hormones, I think. And so just to kind of big picture, our liver is one of the hardest working organs in our body. It's kind of, think of it, it's like the grand central station of your body, because it's detoxifying foreign and hostile substances that can really create a lot of confusion in the body. And so the reason detox isn't really all that simple is because a lot of the toxic substances behave like fats. I know that might be kind of like, what? Hold on. Stick with me. Because our blood is mainly water, the fats don't dissolve in water. So fats act like, they kind of are just like sponges. Toxins tend to stick and hide in fat cells. And so that's why sometimes the regions in our body can really pocket fat, is because it's actually hiding some of these toxins away. And so whenever we have a toxic substance, it has to be converted into a substance that will be dissolved in blood, so that they can be transported into the urine and stool and finally leave the body. And so this is super key when we think about our hormones, because our hormones are fat soluble. And so all of this is really important in the whole detoxification process and the different phases that it has to go through in the liver to actually be eliminated like we want it to from our body. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about now is the different phases of detoxification that the liver has. There's actually 3 phases. So we're going to go through each one and just kind of chat about how we can support each phase of detoxification in our liver so that our hormones can be happy and we can make them, use them, and eliminate them like it was designed to be done, right? Okay, so phase 1. During phase 1 detox, the liver is trying to take the hormones, and even you can just throw in like toxic substances. I mean, it's kind of trying to do all of these things at one time. So it's trying to take these substances and convert them into something that can be detoxed and gotten out of your body. And so a lot of times they have to be broken up and they have to be managed before they can go to phase 2. Which is trying to put them in the correct form. And so that's kind of what's happening in phase 1 is it's trying to take that raw material and put it into something that's usable. And so to support this process, B vitamins are really key. Magnesium is also key, and antioxidants that we would normally get from foods are really key to help support this phase 1 detox. So phase 2 is called the conjugation pathways or the conjugation phase, I guess would be a better way to put it. This is what takes the substance and makes it easier to remove from the body, right? It's kind of just continuing that process that was started in phase 1. And so when it comes to the fat-soluble substances, the liver has to make them stick into bile so they can actually be eliminated in the stool because fat-soluble substances are eliminated in the stool and water-soluble eliminated in the urine. And of course, all sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone are fat-soluble. Xenoestrogens are also fat-soluble. And this is actually one of the biggest threats to hormonal balance is all of these fake estrogens that are in a lot of the products that we use today, as far as like things on our skin, cleaning products, even things we cook with in the kitchen. All of those things really mimic estrogen in the body, and they also have to be, detoxed out of the body. And so that can really overload our detox pathways if we have so much of those, and it can throw off our hormonal balance. And it can just do a lot. So that is what's happening in this phase 2 conjugation, is that it's trying to take all of these things that we're giving it and making it readily available to be eliminated in phase 3. And so phase 2, to help support it, here are some things that you could consider adding in or getting more of. Sulfur-rich foods can be really helpful in helping phase 2 detox. So these will be things like garlic, onions, cruciferous veggies can have these, ginger. Just be careful with the cruciferous vegetables because sometimes they can be harder to digest. So I recommend consuming those well cooked, so you can get all the benefits from them, but also make sure that they're not weighing down your digestive system. Another thing that's really, really helpful for phase 2 detox is are green vegetables, like folate-rich green vegetables. And again, here you would just want to make sure you are properly cooking them or preparing them so that they are easily digestible, but you're also getting the benefits there. B vitamins are also one more thing that helps phase 2. So you can see how, B vitamins are very key in a lot of different processes in our body. And they are readily used up when we're under stress. So a lot of times, whenever we're under a lot of stress, we have to produce, obviously, cortisol, and that B vitamins are used in that process to make cortisol. So that's why they get used up a lot quicker when we're under stress. So you can see how if they're used up, it affects a lot of other things and processes in our body, like what we're talking about now. And that's just something to kind of consider if you are under a lot of stress, to just get more B vitamins. Hopefully from food sources would be excellent. Meat has a lot of B vitamins. Nutritional yeast is one thing that I like to use that's a whole food source of B vitamins. So there's lots of others, but those are just 2 that I find work really well. And then last but not least is glutathione or NAC or NAC. This is something that I probably wouldn't use unless you were working with a practitioner because, there are just some nuances with dosing and things like that. And so they can be helpful for that, but I think it's important to kind of see where the breakdown is between phases and what would be best for you. But those are some things that can help with phase 2 detox. All right. Last but not least is phase 3, of course, and that is when elimination happens. And so this is the phase that the actual toxin or hormone, et cetera, is removed. And so water soluble substances, like I mentioned, go into the kidneys and are excreted out that way. And then fat soluble substances are packaged into bile and eliminated via the stool. You can see why gallbladder and liver function are super, super key when you think about proper elimination. If you don't have enough bile, you're not going to be breaking down your food properly, and you're not going to be eliminating properly either. That's something I see a lot, is that bile is not being properly produced for various reasons. And so that can cause a lot of issues with the actual elimination process of all of these things. So with elimination, obviously, our hydration is key with our kidneys. Our elimination, which is very complex as far as elimination via bowel movement, they are super, super key to be making sure that you're actually having daily bowel movements, that you're actually urinating daily, multiple times a day, of course. And so if you don't produce one or more stools a day, then this might be a reason that your hormones are off and that your other processes in your body are kind of struggling, because there's so many things that we poop out on a daily basis. And so if all those things are just stuck, you can see why that would cause a lot of issues, especially with hormones. And so this is just super key also in the fact of, if you're doing some of these other things to push phase 1 and phase 2 detox, but you're not properly eliminating, that is going to kind of work against you. And so I think that's where, just taking the whole picture into consideration, and also, of course, hopefully working with somebody that can help you to see where the breakdown is and add more supports in for that phase or pathway to help support overall elimination and, of course, happy hormones. And so hopefully this big picture looking at how detox really affects hormones, and not only hormones, there's a lot of things that it affect, but just wanted to kind of do a deep dive on that in this episode, in that hormones are not as complicated as we might think. I get that it is a complex system. How I think sometimes we're just like, yeah, I just feel like my hormones are working against me, or I just feel like it's so complicated. What am I going to do? But when you understand how your body works and you try to work with it, that's really when you can see a lot of the forward movement. And so that's why I'm giving you this information, so that you can use it and then just try to see how you can support your body better. And just speaking to your liver specifically, I know it's so important for hormones, like I just mentioned, but it's something that often gets very overloaded because of all the other things that we're telling our body it needs to eliminate, and we're adding on these extra things to eliminate, right? And a lot of it does come from our environment. What are we putting on our body? Are we eating a lot of processed foods? Both of those things can cause us to have a lot more of these toxins and a lot more of these xenoestrogens to have to eliminate, that is kind of clogging or backing up our liver function, that can then, of course, affect digestion and a lot of other things. Liver is super key in so many things. So hopefully this has given you some things to think about and to just keep in mind when you want to have happy hormones and you're feeling a little frustrated. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me via email, or you can always send me a DM on Instagram. I respond to those daily. I would love to continue the conversation with you, and I hope you've enjoyed this series on women's health, fact or fiction. And if there are any other topics that you'd love for me to do a deep dive in, or you want to see an episode on, please let me know about that too. I would love to keep that in mind for future episodes. All right, guys, see you on the next one. If this episode has served you in any way, I would love it if you'd share any aha moments or takeaways over on Instagram and tag me at Kari Coody. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so we can continue to learn and grow together.